West 40th Street, 8th Avenue for the cardiac defibrellator. Oh wait, Victor.
It was 7:11 a.m. and it started with the dispatcher for the region that I work in Brooklyn, dispatching a cardiac arrest.
Any units available for West Number 2.5 UP as a Peter for operational funeral. 207, go to 1621, 1621 West.
A couple seconds later, he dispatched another cardiac arrest to a different unit. And then about a minute after that, he dispatched another cardiac arrest to a different unit.
Columbia.
And this went on for 11 days. We were seeing upwards of, I think at our peak, we saw 326 cardiac arrests system-wide in a 24-hour period in New York City EMS. We were not reviving anyone.
And I'm probably actually quite embarrassed to say how naive I was about it initially, and to be honest, everybody was.
We were told it was just like the flu, and so we just kind of like didn't worry about it too much.
I remember that there was this doctor in the unit that was very worried about it. We all kind of made fun of him, thinking that he was overreacting about it.
My feeling was, well, this is going to be a storm in a teacup, because this is not quite as virulent as, it's a nastier flu, if you want to call it that.
Coronavirus, wait, you mean that thing on the news that's happening in like Wuhan, China? And they're like, yeah, and we all looked at each other, and then they're like, I guess wear a mask when you're in there and be careful.
First thing I remember is that I saw Chinese medical workers in this picture. They were wearing hazmat suits. And the first thing that I thought was, this is big. They were outside transporting someone wearing hazmat suits. And that's really surprising. These weren't people inside a hospital doing anything. They were just transporting somebody. And so it said to me, very contagious, and people have died.
There was no government restrictions at all. I went to Miami for a dance festival, and there was no restrictions. People were going around with hand sanitizers, and there's hand sanitizers everywhere. Just everyone was making sure they washed their hands. At the time, there was still only 102 cases confirmed all over the country. We didn't think it was that bad.
I had this cough, and it was a really dry, intermittent cough. It went on for 2 weeks. And it was just odd, and I'd never had a cough like that before. And I thought, this sounds like coronavirus. The thing that really struck me was the tiredness. The tiredness was really severe. I was sleeping most of the day and just getting up to eat, and then going back to sleep in the chair and then downstairs. Very few other people in England had it at the time. I was one of the first medical people to have it.
After I got back to New York in February, there were several weeks where I was aware that this was coming, but we were still in that very, very quiet phase of the curve.
The numbers were still low in New York, but there was a recognition that our elected officials we're going to play the part of the mayor from Jaws and not act.
The first surge of pneumonia patients were of patients with very severe pneumonia. And there were patients everywhere, not only in the room, but also in the hallways. I never in my career saw a pneumonia of this severity. We rapidly arrived to the full capacity of the hospital. The trouble of this disease also is that it not only is severe, but also the recovery is very low.
I'm not sure anybody at that stage really seriously considered that it would become what it has become here. Once it hit our shores, it evolved very quickly.
From midnight tonight, there'll be no quick dash home.
I think every return traveller is a significant risk.
Hotels, motels, caravan parks and student housing turned into makeshift quarantine centres.
I got involved in China and Wuhan and repatriation of Australian citizens. These were people who were stuck in the epicenter at the beginning, deep in the heart of it before it had got anywhere else. We had a small team of about 7 of us who boarded a plane with Qantas and flew off to China. Flying into Wuhan was one of the most bizarre things I've ever experienced. Massive city, all lit up, all the roads lit up, nothing moving, no one anywhere. The whole place completely locked down, not a single car. It was bizarre. I describe it as it was a bit like the movie I Am Legend. We landed, docked in the airport, and then we had a waiting game really in Wuhan to see who they were giving us to take back on the plane. They were frightened. They didn't know whether they had it or not. They were often cases having to leave behind parts of their family who weren't Australian citizens to come home. We ended up flying to Darwin and disembarked the passengers there into a quarantine zone. We were there for 14 days, looking after them medically and holistically. It was one of the most humbling and emotional experiences of my life, releasing them from the quarantine, actually. And I remember my children saying this to me, saying, "Dad, we don't want you to go. We don't want you to go to China. Please don't go." And I related it to them in this way. I said, look, if you were with Mum overseas and you were stuck, and someone was able to go and bring you home to me, I would want them to go. I would want them to go and do that. And that's why Daddy's going. He's going to help these people and bring them home.
I volunteered to work the first weekend that we had made a separate COVID ward, and we had our one positive patient on the ward and several pending results at that point. And then it was a Sunday afternoon and suddenly a load of other results came back and we suddenly had 5 positive patients on the ward.
The cases started doubling and tripling. We knew that it had a propensity to cause pneumonia, but I think the degree to which it could actually overwhelm medical services, that realization was late in coming.
If I was to chart it, it went from denial to fear and then chaos. It's difficult to describe how fast people arrived and how unwell they were.
When we saw what was happening in Italy and the Italians were telling us, look, they're just all dying, we thought, no, there must be something, you're just being overwhelmed, you're fully prepared, we've got more time than you to prepare, we'll be all right. But it's true what they told us, it's a really, really tough disease. Even now, we've been really shocked by how late some people are presenting with conditions. Predominantly males were waiting till the last moment to come in, and when they'd arrive in the emergency department with oxygen saturations in the 50s, 60s, needing to be intubated straight away. These guys were really, really sick. As we were bringing these guys in to the ICU, we were moving the non-COVID patients out and locking down and extending the COVID ICU, moving 8 normal patients out, putting 8 COVID patients in, and we thought, over those really 3 evenings, we thought, we can keep this up, we're going to run out of beds.
My current reality feels like I've been in this reality forever, but it's actually only 3 weeks.
Things are just totally crazy right now. Everyone is COVID positive in these hallways. All you hear is oxygen.
The scene in the emergency room was unreal. It was wall-to-wall patients on stretchers, the largest number and most motley crew of ventilators I had ever seen in my life. Not all of those patients were alive. Some of them were dead and were waiting to be picked up by the morgue, which was overwhelmed. We created our own COVID units outside of my ICU wing. We said those are our more dedicated units, but then every unit became a dedicated COVID ICU unit pretty much.
As this was happening, the unit was filling up with kit. People bringing kit, supplies. So all our corridors around the ICU, which were once wide, were narrow, filled with boxes. So there was a kind of like trench-like atmosphere in kind of World War I trench, that everyone had their head down, they were doing work, and they had a task. And we were a team working together, and I think we were all focused on the task. There wasn't really enough time for worry.
The scene was not a scene I expected to ever see in the United States of America. The number of patients, the inability of the staff to keep up, and the shortage of supplies.
On Thursday of last week, Gavin's company called a mandatory meeting. They told all the staff that one of their co-workers had died with COVID. And everyone was very, very shocked. No one saw it coming.
Oh, Mary was a wonderful person. Everybody loved her because she was happy all the time.
It threw us so off balance, even though we're both, critical care nurses that have lots of experience, and we're supposed to be tough and we're supposed to understand all of this. We really struggled for a few days.
It's a really strange experience. It feels like there's no closure at all because she's just gone.
And it was that moment in time, Gavin actually that weekend said we need to sit down and redo our wills.